All right. Happy New Year. It's good to be in a new year, isn't it? We're going to start the month with the standing practice cycle, kind of the reset of the month. The standing poses are considered the most accessible, the most spacious. And this week, we're going to talk about the idea of abiding practice, honoring our practice and meeting ourselves where we are, not inflicting our practice upon ourselves. So based on the Yoga Sutra, steadiness and ease, seeking the ease, peace, as well as the steadiness, so that we can be in a practice that doesn't involve any self-judgment. So the idea is that when we're judging ourselves, we can't fully be present. So that means we're going to really give ourselves the support we need. So for the standing practice today, maybe you're going to use a chair instead of a block, and that's perfectly fine. So otherwise, we need a couple blocks and just a blanket. And we're going to begin. So find your dominant cross-legged position. Just take a couple moments to adjust your seated position so that you really come down on the center points of your sitting bones. You can start to sense your shoulders aligning with your hips, your skull aligning directly above the spine. Inviting your legs to descend. Sometimes there's a sense of lifting or holding in the legs, so releasing the weight of the legs and any gripping in the legs. Dropping the shoulders. And then bringing the hands together in front of the heart, closing the eyes and looking down away from your brain. Taking a few moments to connect with your breathing and to drop into a state of presence. And giving attention is one of the quickest ways we can become present. What is here right now? We can perceive with the senses. We can ride the wave of our own breath to maintain a sense of presence. And as Eckhart Tolle put out there, one of the third ways to become present is to accept what is. Maintaining the lift and spread of your chest on an exhale, bow toward the heart. Let your hands move onto your thighs. And when you're ready, lift your head, let your eyes come gently open. Welcome. So the majority of this practice will be standing, but we are going to do a half Lord of the Fishes seated twist before we come up. So you're going to sit on a block. If you prefer, you could sit on a couple blankets or a bolster. And you'll have a second block behind you so that you can elevate your hand. So we're going to be doing the 6 actions of the spine. So the other actions will be done standing. This twisting action on both sides will be done seated. So we're going to start with the right knee just directly in front of the right hip. So you see your right thigh bone just kind of vertically out in front of you. And then the left foot can either be alongside your right shin or alongside your right thigh. And if you decide to go to the thigh side, just take a moment to adjust your sitting bones so that they feel more even with the weight. Make sure you have that second block behind you to elevate the hand. We'll begin with the right hand over the left shin. Raise the left arm. Take a nice big inhale. On your exhale, you're going to bring the left hand onto the block behind you. And you might stay here, and you might adjust the right arm to catch the upper arm with the left thigh. So if you're going to go a little deeper into the twist, you'll raise the right arm and drop the upper arm to meet the left thigh. So you're either still holding the shin or you're connecting your arm and your thigh. And throughout the practice today, just assessing in each pose, are you in abiding practice, or are you inflicting some sort of demand on yourself that maybe the body isn't ready for? These last few breaths, turning the head to look over the left shoulder, keeping your eyes on the horizon, and keeping the spine long by lifting with the inhalations. And after this exhalation, you can inhale, come out of the twist. We'll just switch over the legs. So we'll take the left heel near the right sitting bone. And you'll either place your right foot alongside the left shin or alongside the left thigh. And again, make sure to take care of your sitting bones so they feel as well balanced as you can make them. We'll just start with the left hand holding the right shin. Raise the right arm. Take a full in breath here, and on your exhale, turn to the right. Place your hand on the block behind you. The idea there is that you don't have to lean back to touch the floor. You can keep your spine really tall. And then maybe you'll decide to go into a deeper position, raising the left arm and dropping the left arm to meet the right thigh to take the twist farther. So we can only be fully present when we're meeting ourselves where we are in our practice. And when you feel like it's time, that twist is kind of climbed up toward the neck area, turn and look over the right shoulder, but keep the gaze steady and even with the horizon, so we don't adjust the spine down or up or into extension or flexion. Let the exhale really empty out the next exhale. And you can inhale, releasing the arms, coming out of the twist, wrapping your legs. And you can put yourself in hands and knees table position. If you know you need a modification for downward facing dog, we are going to hold it for about a minute. So you might do the version where you're standing upright and reaching toward a chair. Otherwise, you're going to come into the standard version of downward facing dog. And make sure to begin with the torso, of course, elongating, lifting the hips away from shoulders and wrists. Maybe starting to walk the heels down individually to wake up the legs. And just make inquiry. We can't meet ourselves where we are unless we know where we are. So making inquiry into the body. And then maybe you're pumping the heels. You'll come back to two lifted heels and just see what happens when you lower the heels, open the backs of the knees, compress your thighs front to back, and hold your edge with the pose for the last half of it. Flowing some deeper breath into the pose. We'll tiptoe into Uttanasana on an inhale to start to walk the feet toward the wrists. You can also bring your hands closer to your feet so that the feet and hands come kind of evenly together. And then just find your balance over your feet. You may need blocks under your hands, so just take care of the needful throughout your practice. If the floor feels too far away or too extreme, then heighten the hands with some blocks. And begin in Ardha Uttanasana, looking forward, attempting to straighten the legs, attempting to balance the feet, lifting the navel toward the spine, like there's a little drawstring attached there. Finding the concave lumbar spine, moving the shoulder blades into the chest, creating space between your front ribs and your pelvis. And then carrying that space into full Uttanasana, bowing deeply, turning the gaze through the legs, maybe lowering the hands, maybe beginning to walk the hands to align more closely with the outer feet. And now we're going to come up through Utkatasana, chair pose. So bring your feet together. You can come back to half Uttanasana and bring the feet together. And when we align the feet together, we all have different contours to our feet. So what we really want to look for is the second toe aligning with the heel, which for some of us might mean spreading the heels slightly. And then you're going to bend your knees. Gently squeeze the pelvic floor so that the energy of the spine stays moving up. And then take hold of your hips with your hands and try to clamp the elbows in to spread and broaden the chest. Curl the tip of the tailbone down toward the floor and attempt to align the torso more upright, but without moving the thighs away from the floor. And then if you can, raise the arms in Urdhva Hastasana, signaling that really upward energy of the torso, and stay for three more breaths. If you need to leave early, you can just stand straight up. Use an inhale to come fully upright. And right where you're standing, release the arms and close your eyes, just holding mountain pose. And just imagine energetically you're being held by a thick rope through the crown of the head. So the through line of the body is that upward moving energy. Everything to the periphery is gently falling toward the floor. Take the tailbone into the body. Keep the shoulders floating above the hips. Receive your breath. And then open the eyes. We'll come into Utkatasana now from the upright standing position, starting with the arms elevated in Urdhva Hastasana. So raise the arms. Come to the top of an in-breath on the exhale. Take the knees, bend them, and attempt to align the thigh bones more level with the floor. Draw the navel in, curl the tailbone into the body. Try not to push your skull forward. Move the arms back. Lift the pelvic floor. 3 more breaths. Inhale to come up. And exhale, release your arms and you're back in mountain pose. Close your eyes. Drop your shoulders. Receive your breath. Listen for any feedback from the body. Staying attentive to what is and not what we wish it was. Okay, so we'll get to the other actions of the spine now from here. You can separate your feet again, just hip distance, and we'll come into crescent pose so that we can move laterally with the spine. So go back to raising your arms. Try to take any bend out of the elbows and try to plant your shoulders toward the hips and then dynamically reach up through the fingernails. Seal your hands together without bending your elbows. You'll probably feel the pressure of your arms against the sides of your head. You'll anchor into your right foot. Come to the top of an inhale, exhale, lean to the left. And just let the crescent shape of the spine evolve over the next 3 or 4 breaths. Try not to bend that left elbow. I see some of you with bent left elbows. Tighten up the arm. Inhale, you're going to come back to center. Exhale, hands to your heart, giving your arms a rest. Couple breaths. Try to breathe the sternum toward the thumbs. And we'll move to second side. So inhale, raise the arms again. Really pressurizing the hands, taking any bend out of the elbow that you can. Moving both arms back behind the head, behind the ears. Come to the top of an in-breath. Anchor into your outer right, left foot, sorry. And then you're going to lengthen to the right. Inhale to center. Exhale, release your arms. Good. And now finally, we're going to come into the last 2 actions of extension and flexion. Keeping the space between the feet.
Go back to Urdhva Hastasana arms, seal your hands together. We're coming into the back bend, so take your tailbone toward the front body. Come to the top of an in-breath, and on your exhalation, lengthen up through the fingertips. And your back bend should always be more about space, and the depth will come if you keep kind of sticking with the idea of keeping the spine spacious. So lengthen from the tailbone through the top of the head, through the fingertips. Try not to drop the head back. Keep the gaze steady, the eyes centered in your eye sockets, not rolling your eyes up in your head. And on an in-breath, you'll lift yourself up and out of it and release the arms down. Good. So last but not least, we already did Uttanasana. We're going to do a ragdoll just to kind of get the full suspension of the torso for the flexion piece of the 6 actions. So go ahead and raise the arms, but then grab the opposite elbows. Lift up through the elbow tips and take both elbows back, so you're opening the chest. Come to the top of an inhale, and then as if you're lengthening your trunk over a tabletop, you're trying to gather space to the front body, you'll fold forward. You might need to bend your knees a little bit here. You're just going to dangle freely. To give the legs a little more attention, start to rock, shifting your weight kind of from right foot to left foot, kind of like you're rocking a baby in your arms. And just feel how you get the legs kind of individually waking up here. It's another way you can make inquiry in the body. Sometimes static holding, we don't learn as much than when we kind of bring some playful movement into the practice. And then come back to center, drop your hands, and help yourself come up. Good. So before we get going with the lateral standing poses, we're going to cultivate our attention and our intention for abiding practice just by holding tree pose and really steadying the gaze, bringing the attention inside. So we're going to anchor into left foot and prop right heel against left ankle, and right away move the outer left hip bone to midline. So you feel that your left inner thigh continues the energetic kind of post of the spine directly into the floor. If you're able to maintain the rotation of right hip, step up the leg either right below the knee or right above. When you find your steadiness, which by now you should have kind of picked an object in the room to stare at that's level with the horizon. When you find your steadiness, at that point you might shift your hands to the prayer position in front of the heart. You might not. You have to abide by what is present, what is true in your body, what is the needful. And then from there, if you have the steadiness maintained and the ease, the comfort, sthira and sukha, you can raise the arms. And again, try to really straighten out the elbows. It will direct a cleaner line of energy up through the arms and out through the fingertips. And then reversing as those steps out. So as far as you took them, just kind of reverse them backwards. And once you have the right foot down, shake out your left foot to relieve any fatigue or tension that we didn't want to accumulate there. So second side, you'll create a nice pada bandha, which is the foot lock with the floor with right foot, and take left heel to right ankle and begin there with as much support as you can. Draw the outer right hip bone in, hands on your hips. Pick that gaze straight in front of you. Maybe the foot steps up the leg. Squeezing the thigh into the foot into the thigh, or maybe it's the calf or the ankle, but make sure it's 2 parts so that it's not just one thing pressing into the other. They're pressing into each other evenly to create that steadiness. And then maybe the hands to the heart center. And maybe Urdhva Namaskarasana, which is upward prayer pose. Go ahead and reverse it backwards. stepping down and shaking out. Awesome. So we'll place our blocks for the lateral poses. We have lateral poses standing, we have medial poses standing, moving to the sides of the body first. So we'll place the blocks to each end of the mat so we can kind of move efficiently from right to left. And again, I welcome you to use a chair, in which case you will have to transfer your chair to right side, left side. But if that's what is needed in your body, then you want to abide by that. We're going to start with triangle pose. Go ahead and jump or step the feet wide. Bring your hands onto your hips as you prepare the legs. So rotating out with the right leg, in with the left toes, but then spiral the left inner thigh back out again so that we're not rotating our hips. Okay, hips point to the broad side of the mat. Raise the arms, open the arms, and then rotate just elbows to fingertips. Firm your legs, extend the right toes to the right. Inhale here, exhale, extending into triangle pose. So meeting yourself where you need to be. It will evolve, you will deepen the pose, but meet yourself where you need to be today, which maybe is not where you left the pose last time you were in it. Maybe you've kind of gotten a little more tense, the pose is not as deep. Maybe somehow it's more deep today. And this is where that self-judgment piece comes in. We have these kind of expectations always on ourselves. We can't truly be compassionate to others if we're not starting with ourselves. Three more breaths. Anytime you're holding a pose, keep it alive and present with your breath, with your attention. We're not just a screensaver. Use an inhale to pull yourself out. Use your top arm, also anchor into left foot. And you'll take your hands back to your hips to adjust and set up left side. So turning out left toes, turning in right toes, rewinding the hips back to facing the broad side of the mat. Raise the arms again. Open the arms and revolve elbows to fingertips. Inhale, exhale, extend to the left. Taking a hand onto the block or chair so that the hand aligns directly in line with the shoulder. And the top arm is directly above the lower arm. And if your shoulder bothers you here, you can always keep your hand on your hip and revolve the chest and shoulder rather than working with the arm. So always kind of honoring the body. There's a mantra for this practice, which I think is funny. No pain, no pain. So we all know the no pain, no gain. This is no pain, no pain. Okay? 3 more breaths. Use your top arm, back heel, crown of your head, your in-breath to pull yourself up. And turn the toes forward. Go ahead and jump or step back in. And just be in Tadasana for about 5 breaths. Imagine your face floating to the back of the head, which gives your skull a mild adjustment. You can also draw your chin up to the base of the skull energetically. Finding your comfort here, which is that ease, sukha. Good space is the translation for sukha. We know the steadiness. We work on the steadiness all the time. Steadiness and ease is that pair. We don't talk about the ease as much. Okay, so now we're going to bring Trikonasana into Ardha Chandrasana. So triangle pose into half moon pose. So again, chair might be useful here, even if it wasn't for that first triangle. You can reset your blocks. We'll come back to jumping out and setting up the right side of the pose. Feel free to come right into triangle pose now, right-sided triangle pose. We were already there, so we can kind of remember those steps. The body hangs on to the memory of the the cells, thank God, so that the brain doesn't have to remember everything. And then you're going to self-direct when you think it's time, preparing to transition into Ardha Chandrasana. Left hand comes to the hip. The right knee bends, make sure it tracks with the toes, that it keeps pointing to the right. Step your block out a ways, step in with your left foot, and on an exhale, you're going to float into that nice 90-degree leg shape, holding it for a few breaths. And then make your way back to Trikonasana. Stepping down with the left foot, bringing the block in with you, restoring the shape of triangle. And on an in-breath, pull yourself up. Realign the toes forward, take the hips, and set up left side. So I'm attempting to get through a series of standing poses, which is why we're not jumping out and in for each side. You can take your hips here. Oh, or set up left side. I told you to set up left side. So go into triangle pose now. And then self-guiding into Ardha Chandrasana. Taking the hip, bending the left knee, try to keep it tracking with the toes, not wavering, especially to the inner big toe, which it likes to do. Step the block forward, step the right foot in. And on an exhale, you're going to lift up into Ardha Chandrasana. So it really makes a difference. Your blocked up hand or chaired up hand should really be in alignment with the shoulder. That makes a big difference. 2 vertical limbs is really important to the structure and stability of the pose. And when we have the steadiness, the ease does come. So these steadiness and ease really work together. Nicely done, good job. So begin to reverse the steps. Bring yourself back to Utthita Trikonasana, extended triangle pose. On an in-breath, pull yourself up and out of there. Take the toes forward and jump or step back in. And close your eyes. Drop your shoulders. Receive your breath. Imagine you're in a little boat and you're riding the waves of your own breath. The peaks, the valleys, the in-betweens. Maybe there's little pauses. Good. So we'll come into Warrior Two and side angle pose. We'll put them together so we can kind of conserve some time because we only have an hour. So the blocks are reset. Side angle pose will need the block. Warrior Two does not. And as you're ready, you can jump or step out. We'll do right side first. Take hold of your hips as you set up your legs, turning right toes out, left toes in. And then once you have the stance and you've rewound the hips to face or point to the broad side of the mat, extend the arms. Take an in-breath on the exhale, sink the right knee in line with the right ankle. And I just adjusted my spacing because we really want to see the knee above the ankle, not beyond. So make sure you have a wide enough stance. Try to soften the inner shoulder blades down your back. If the shoulders are kind of munching on the ears, soften the inner shoulder blades down your back. Turn the gaze, look over the right fingertips. Lift your pelvic floor, anchor into the outer left foot, and try to imagine the underside of your right thigh supporting the top right thigh. So like there's mesh or a safety net there lifting up to the top thigh. Take an in-breath here on your exhale, extending to the right, planting the hand to the block outside the foot, and then taking the left arm vertically overhead. Revolve the arms so your left palm faces to the right, and align the biceps with the ear or even behind the ear for the side angle shape. So it's this beautiful slash of energy from the foot all the way out through the fingertips. Keep softening into your right hip space to keep the depth of the pose. We really want to see a right thigh bone level with the floor. Keeping that right thigh bone level with the floor, can you inhale and sweep back to Virabhadrasana 2? Nice, beautiful, that was awesome. Inhale, push the floor away, straighten the leg. and revolve the toes forward. You can take hold of the hips as we set up side two. Okay, so toeing out with the left toes, in with the right, intersecting heel to arch of right foot. The stance should still be appropriate because we didn't adjust the spacing. So extend the arms out, take an in-breath, and exhale the knee above the ankle. So keeping the book on your head idea, I see some of us throwing the spine to the left. We don't want to do that. Imagine someone's holding firmly your right wrist and they're not letting you go anywhere. Gaze is over the left fingers. Grab the floor with the outer right foot. Lift your pelvic floor. Soften your inner shoulder blades. Breathe. Take another in-breath on your exhale, extending left. We're going to take the hand down, whatever level you need. Chair, there's 3 levels of block. Placing the wrist in line with the shoulder again. Stack the top arm vertically first. Revolve the arm, palm faces left. And then align the arm at the side of the head. Keep the right ear close to the right arm. So you have to bring the head to the arm, otherwise the head will drop and we'll lose the flow of energy along the spine. Keep lifting the underside of your left thigh toward the top thigh and taking it deeper with the left hip. So this shouldn't all be white knuckles, grabbing and grasping and gripping and striving. So find the ease, find the comfort. It comes from the steadiness. Keep the left thigh where it is. Inhale back to Virabhadrasana 2. And then push the floor away through the left foot. Revolve the toes forward. This is a big old stance you have, so you might want to heel toe walk in until you can jump it in or step it in. And you're back in Tadasana. Put yourself back in that little boat on the big ocean of your breath. And just ride those waves. Placing yourself in presence with full attention to the breath, the eternal breath. And as you're ready, you can open the eyes. Okay, we'll come into the medial poses, starting with Warrior 1, taking it into Warrior 3, and just inviting everybody to place both blocks to the right in case you would like extra support for Warrior 3. And you can find your way out as you're ready, taking your hands onto your hips. Revolve the right foot to the right, and then really toe way in with the left foot so you can set your hips to face the short end of the mat. Take your hands and kind of revolve the hips like a steering wheel. So we feel the hip points evenly coming toward that short end of the mat. Clamp the elbows in slightly, straighten both legs, and gently push in on your tailbone. Raise the arms now. Come to the top of an in-breath, exhale, you'll take the right knee above the right ankle. Move the tailbone way in to keep the lumbar spacious in this back bend. See if you can take the biceps any amount farther back behind the ears. And without disturbing your Warrior 1 pose, pivot off your left heel. Extend your torso over your right thigh. You might take the blocks, you might not, but you're going to step into Warrior 3. You'll step closer with the left foot, and on an exhale, you'll lift up into that pose. Step back with your left foot, recover Warrior 1 just for a beat. Your fullest expression of that pose. And then push the floor away through the right foot to straighten the leg. Turn the toes out. And because we have to transition blocks, let's jump in here or step and just hold a mountain pose. Those are vigorous poses, so it's good to break them up. Hold a mountain pose for as many breaths as you need. If the breath is ragged, you just want to wait it out and become smooth and steady. And once you feel like your breath is smooth and steady, you can open your eyes and transfer the blocks. If you're using them, you might not need them. And anytime I say blocks, that could be a chair. As you're ready, you can jump or step out. Take hold of the hips and set up your legs. Turn your hips manually with your hands so that we bring that right hip around, we pull that left hip back. Push in on the tailbone, clamp the elbows in slightly, firm and straighten both legs. Raise the arms. Come to the top of an in-breath, exhale, sink the knee above the ankle. Be aware of the back legs, keep it straight, keep it steady. See if you can come off of the back heel without changing the pose or disturbing the pose. Come to the top of another in-breath, exhale, hinge over the left thigh. Step in with the right foot and on an exhale, extend into Virabhadrasana 3. The hands can come down on the blocks or chair, otherwise you're extending arms forward. Bring yourself back to Virabhadrasana 1. And on an in-breath, straighten the leg, turn yourself wide again, and jump or step back in. You're back in Tadasana. Close the eyes. Be right there with your breath. Parsvottanasana. So we'll be coming into the forward bend. Part 1 will be with block support. Part 2 will be option to do the hands free. But we'll do both to the right and then we'll transition to the left. So once your blocks are placed to the right, you can jump or step out. Take hold of your hips as you prepare the legs again to turn to the right. Same setup as Warrior 1, what we just did. But we'll keep the legs straight for Parsvottanasana. Take the arms up. Come to the top of an in-breath, exhale, hinging forward. The breastbone should align with your right leg. The block should align evenly to the inner and outer right foot or the chair seat. Adjust that, roll that right hip back so that we know the hips are staying on the same frontal plane. And take a few breaths inviting the extension of the torso out across the floor. Think about the nose having a little shadow and the shadow moving beyond the big toe. And then keeping that length on the exhalation, draping the torso toward the right leg, bowing the head. Adjust the blocks down if you don't need all the height. Take as much height as you need, but don't use more than you need. And to correct for the asymmetry of the legs, bring some weight into right big toe, left small toe. On an in-breath, return to the concave lumbar with the block support. Take hold of your hips from there, anchor into your legs and feet, and on an in-breath, come up. And you might be returning where you just were. You might be coming into hands-free. So if you're gonna do hands-free, you'll either take a clasping hands position, an opposite forearm grab, or reverse prayer pose if you can get the hands to close and the shoulders to externally rotate. If you're going back to the hands on the blocks, you're going to raise your arms right now. So inhale here. Exhale, come over the right leg. You're in the half version of the pose, concave lumbar. Next exhale, bow deeply toward the right leg. Last 2 exhales. If your hands are on your blocks, bring them to the hips. We're all going to pull up on an inhalation. And then release the arms if you had the arms behind the back. And transfer your blocks to left side. You can keep your feet wide or return them to wide if you had to adjust out. And now we'll set up side 2, toeing out to the left, toeing in with the right toes. Revolving the hips so they're square, straightening and firming the legs. And then raising the arms. Come to the top of an in-breath, exhale, lengthen forward, and place the blocks or chair evenly around the left foot. And spend some time getting the torso to extend out beyond the big toe. Think about the nose just kind of drifting out beyond the big toe. Try to anchor into your back heel, even if it's off the floor. Direct the right heel toward the floor. And then on an exhalation, carry the length you've established into the full forward bend, bowing deeply toward the left shin, adjusting block height down if you don't need as much. One day your chin will be on your shin. Equalizing the pose by shifting weight across the toe pads toward the left big toe, right small toe. Finish up an exhalation and then come back to Ardha Parshvottanasana, concave lumbar. Anchoring into legs and feet, grab hold of the hips and inhale to come up. And now abiding by your need, you're going to either raise the arms to come back to what you just did, to repeat it, or you'll find a clasp. If you're clasping again, take the alternate interlock behind your back. If you're grabbing forearms, take the less favored grabbing of the forearms. Otherwise, reverse prayer. Inhale, top of the breath, exhale, hinging forward. Inhale there, exhale, bow deeply toward the left shin. So I like to say, if you're present, that's a very good sign you are in abiding practice. And this applies off the mat as well. It's not, the yoga is just a microcosm for how we are really in our lives. If you're present, you are in abiding practice. You're living your yoga. Let the next exhale completely empty. If your hands are down, take them to your hips. And on an in-breath, lift yourself up. Turn the feet. Extend the arms if they're behind your back. And jump or step back in. I'm taking Prasarita Padottanasana next, but we're going to take mountain to just find the smooth, steady breath. You're going to set up for wide standing fold. We're not going to jump out because we're starting to wind down, kind of dial down the nervous system. But we do want the head supported somehow. So that might mean that you're going to build up a block and maybe a blanket to make it a little softer. Your bolster and a blanket or a block might work. So any combination of poses, not of poses, of props that will support the crown of your head when your feet are wide is what you're going to go with. And you might need to just experiment for a couple moments to see what you might need, because as always, the needs change. So you're testing the height from the equilateral triangle position. Make sure one of your own legs could fit between your feet. And then once you have it, you can come up. And just try to roll the feet out from under themselves if they've kind of turned underneath. One way you can tell is you can still see your pinky toenail. It's a good sign. Grab the floor with the outer skirting of the feet, lift the inner arches, firm the legs, balance the feet, and then we'll take the hands to the hips and just kind of squeeze the elbows in. Lift and spread your chest as a big imprint to keep that kind of idea as we fold forward. Come to the top of an in-breath. Exhale, keep leading with your chest as you come forward. Take your hands down now and move the top of the head to the prop setup. It may be more restful to turn the palms to face up. Then start to bring your head up and off the props. Start to move the feet closer together. We're going to move to the floor, and we're going to use a block and blanket to take a freestanding legs up the wall pose. So we kind of want to address leg tension after all the standing poses. So we're going to take legs up the wall pose, but without the wall. So you can set up with a block and a block or blanket. And if you're using the block and blanket, it's going to be easier to come down onto it. If it's just a block, you can raise your hips and slide it under you. But you're trying to put the horizontal block to run with the sacrum. So it's connecting and grounding the sacrum. Take a moment to rock your neck and lengthen the back of the neck. You can unfold your arms like you're in Shavasana. And then pick up your legs one at a time with knees bent. And then extend the legs up. And the legs should be pretty passive. And you should kind of think about the surface area of the sacrum. And we don't really want to uproot the lower sacrum. So the idea isn't to throw the legs back and kind of be in a inverted forward bend. We want the legs pretty much upright and the sacrum pretty evenly grounded on the block. If you're able to quiet down and close the eyes, it can be useful to starting to settle the nervous system and starting to withdraw the sense organs from the outer world. And of course, if you have wall space available, it's just as nice, if not nicer, to use that wall. I know that we don't all have that
readily available. And just stay with your breath. We'll be here another half a minute. Abiding practice is really less about asserting our own ideas or expectations. Oftentimes come from a place of self-judgment, more about listening and responding, inquiring and respecting. Begin to lower your feet and step down 1 foot at a time. And once you have your feet down, press into the feet enough that you can slide your sacrum support out of the way. And then we'll do some windshield wipering with the legs just to release the spine before Shavasana. So just fold your hands onto your belly, step your feet to the edges of your mat, but let the knees fall toward each other. And then rocking on your feet, let both knees move to the left as your head rolls to the right. Inhaling back to center. Exhaling, knees right, head left. Inhaling, center. And just keep going with the breath, leading this fluid movement, abiding by the flow of the breath. Maybe lingering if it's particularly relieving of some tension. And when you think it's time, you can come back to center. Make sure to take any other movements the body is requesting, and then set up for final resting pose. Give yourself whatever support you need. Head support, knee support, something over your body, something over your eyes. If you have lights on in the room, you might decide to turn them off. And once you're reclining and the limbs have been adjusted and extended, the palms are turned up, the hands are not touching your props. The feet are passively falling out, big toes to small toes. Close your eyes and begin to surrender all effort from the body. The steadiness piece. And you might place yourself in that little boat again and just imagine you're riding each wave of your own breath. To abide is to remain present with a sense of fullness. When we resort to self-judgment, we are no longer present and we're no longer practicing. Learning to be present with yourself and to abide in that which is steady and comfortable doesn't allow space for self-judgment. When the body is steadied, it becomes still. The stillness translates to the mind. And when the mind is more still, there's less distortion. We see things as they truly are. You can think about ripples on a surface of water, fluctuations, not still. And then that surface becomes more still and reflective and mirror-like. When we see things as they truly are, we can understand that perfection is an illusion. When we're present, we become more still. When we're still, we see things as they truly are. And when we understand how things are, we can abide by that. We can do away with judging ourselves, having unrealistic expectations, having disappointments, frustrations, self-sabotage, self-negativity, criticism. So let's take a few breaths just into the idea of honoring what is, abiding by that. This practice really is an embodiment of big ideas, big concepts that can enhance our lives. Let your breaths flow out more deeply, more thoroughly, just kind of letting the exhales fully eliminate from the body. And in this way, letting go of the old, stale, leftover breath in you, performing a complete exchange of new breath, new perspective, new ideas, new approaches. And when the time is right, returning to your automatic breathing rhythm. Bearing witness to that just for a few moments. Begin to find very simple movement. Let it begin at the outermost parts of your body, the most peripheral areas, and let it trickle in towards center. And when you have enough movement to fold the hands onto the chest or belly, to bend the knees and slide the soles of the feet to the floor, then ease yourself to either side of your body and remain there for a few more moments, bearing witness. Tracking with presence. When you're ready to, with utmost support, with minimal effort, find your way to seated. Meeting yourself there, sealing the hands together in front of the heart. Let's take a breath in through the nose and let it go. From the place within me that I know to be divine, I honor that place within each of you. Namaste. All right, thank you everyone. I'll see you Friday, hopefully, for another standing practice. And take good care. See some of you for the 30-day challenge as well.